St. Vincent and the Grenadines hosted the 8th Summit of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC, on March 1. The summit ended the nation's 13-month tenure as the only Caribbean nation so far to hold a pro tempore presidency of the 33-member hemispheric grouping. Some 25 heads of states and governments attended the meeting in Buccaneer Bay, where the Declaration of Kingstown was finalized. CELAC, which includes all independent countries in the Americas except the United States and Canada, was formed in 2011 as a counterbalance to the Organization of American States. At a press conference the day before the summit, Eyewitness News asked UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres about the relevance of CELAC amidst the various regional and hemispheric organizations in the Americas.
I've always been a supporter of integration, economic integration, political integration, as a key instrument for regions to be able to allow their countries to cooperate more strongly, and cooperating more strongly to be able to better defend the interests of their peoples. So I believe that CELAC is an extremely important tool to push for a progressive economic and political integration in the Latin American and Caribbean world.
Pro tempore President of CELAC, Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, used the opening ceremony of the summit to emphasize some of the issues that he wanted the Declaration of Kingstown to address.
It is distressingly painful to witness live on television the intransigence of the government of Israel and its small and dwindling number of defenders in the perpetration of genocide against the people of Gaza and the Palestinians generally. In our draft declaration, we are demanding, among other things, an immediate ceasefire, ample humanitarian assistance, the observance of international law, a peaceful resolution of the conflict, and a two-state solution as repeatedly endorsed by the United Nations. Similarly, the terrible ordeal in Ukraine must come to an end with negotiations for peace between Russia on the one hand and NATO and Ukraine on the other. There is no other practical or wise conclusion. The continuation of this senseless war has the potential of leading humanity into a nuclear Armageddon. In our region, our beloved Haiti, the land of Louverture, continues to be in turmoil and conflict. The government lacks popular legitimacy, and it has been ineffective. One alarming statistic is that in January 2024, more Haitians, over 1,200, were killed in Haiti than Ukrainian combatants in the war with Russia. The country is gripped by a political, humanitarian, and security crisis. The UN Security Council has adopted a framework for a resolution, and the Caribbean community, of which Haiti is a member, is seeking with Haitian stakeholders to fashion an appropriate political and governance path forward. But at the end of the day, this is a matter profoundly for the Haitian people. They are required to make judicious compromises without compromising their own values in the interest of the people of Haiti. Perfection must not be made the enemy of a good transitional state in post on the way to peace, security, and a democratic way of life. At the recent CARICOM meeting in Guyana, I am satisfied that the Prime Minister of Haiti has recognized what we are saying here. And he has moved from a position, frankly, of what I consider to be intransigence, and he has made compromises. It is now for other stakeholders in Haiti to make compromises on the governance question as we address within the framework of the United Nations Security Council the security and humanitarian and developmental dimensions.
The UN Secretary General also used his opening ceremony speech to address the situation in Haiti. Excellencies, in Haiti, an already dire situation is sadly getting worse by the day. Gangs are holding the country hostage and using sexual violence as a weapon. Meanwhile, the UN humanitarian response plan for Haiti needs solid financial support. Last week in Rio de Janeiro, several countries, including CELAC members, made additional pledges to the multinational security support mission. I welcome these efforts, but much more must be done to secure the deployment of this mission without further delay, and a political solution that could resolve the country's fundamental problems. At the closing press conference, Douglas Slater, the CELAC National Coordinator in Kingstown, outlined the CELAC position on the ongoing unrest in Haiti.
CELAC is supportive of the measures that are being recommended at various levels, including recently at CARICOM, but basically it must be Haitian-led and supported, and Haiti is now in a phase where they are discussing some ways forward. One of the issues, as was explained in the discussion, is that there was some reluctance to hold elections under the current circumstances, but Haiti has now agreed to, in discussions with CARICOM, to move forward with the support of CARICOM and other members of CELAC to address that within about 18 months.
He, however, said that the summit failed to reach a common position on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict after 8 countries did not agree to the proposed statement.
Regarding Gaza, as has been stated, there was a very special declaration today, which is not a general CELAC declaration because several members of CELAC did not sign on to it. Okay? CELAC is a mechanism where one of the rules of procedure is that you can only call it CELAC if there is 100% consensus. So a unanimous decision, and it was not. So, but the general sentiment that was expressed by the great majority of the countries, I think it was about 25, there's some 25 of the 33, was a very strong sentiment that was expressed in this special declaration, basically saying that they deplore the killings of tens of thousands, including Israelis and Palestinians, including the approximately 30,000 Palestinians that were killed since Israel's incursion into Gaza. And they strongly support the United Nations General Assembly call for immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. And also for all parties to the conflict to comply with international and humanitarian law, especially with regard to the protection of civilians, etc. And that group of countries from CELAC also took note of the ongoing cases before the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, to determine whether Israel, the state of Israel, and its continued occupation of the state of Palestine constitutes a violation of international law, etc. And that group also demanded the immediate and unconditional release of hostages, as well as ensuring humanitarian access to the affected areas, and gave support to the general United Nations position. And finally, on that, it has been proposed that under the new chairmanship of Honduras, they will convene an appropriate mechanism to actively monitor the impact of this incursion on the recovery, development, and security of Palestine and the pursuit of a just and lasting peace between Israel and Palestine.
Eyewitness News took up the issue with Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves.
I didn't have the conversation with each of them, but I was getting reports all the time from my team, going around and talking to them. And from what I heard from the various governments for different reasons, some of them didn't have instructions because as far as I am aware, there is no country where you had a prime minister or president who didn't sign on. There are some countries which didn't have instructions. And there are some countries which you can see from how they voted on United Nations General Assembly resolutions. They either voted no or they abstained on the resolution. Some of them may be domestic issues, some may be philosophical issues. But I can't see any reasonable person in right mind and senses. You must be able to say there's a humanitarian crisis. You must be able to say that it's completely wrong to kill over 30,000 Palestinians. You must be able to say that we must have a humanitarian, not a pause, a ceasefire. Must go to the table, a two-state solution. All these things are already accepted either at the Security Council or at the General Assembly.
And the situation in Russia and Ukraine, what was the position of CELAC on that? Did they arrive at a position?
No, the position basically is that we want to see negotiations. Basically, we want to see negotiations.
Was that captured in the declaration?
I think there is a paragraph dealing with that in the general thing about peace. You know, that you need to have peace. But and people tend, and in the draft which we have, we recall the declaration of the General Assembly, which had done a condemnation of Hamas with the October the 7th when Israelis were killed, and what we passed was also is asking for the release of all hostages. So the things in the resolution, which the 20 odd countries which were there, 25, 26, whatever number, out of the 33. I don't see anybody reasonably can't agree with those things.
But you spoke this morning in your comments that you wanted to see that included, and it was not included.
In the general declaration.
How do you feel about it?
No, well, what happens sometimes, I know it was not, we wanted it in our draft, but I knew we had difficulties negotiating the text. So you have a difficulty with that. You don't compromise everything else, you pull it out. And you have a separate declaration, you know, which is what you do.
But it's not a CELAC declaration.
It's a declaration of the 20-something countries. No, and you can look at the UN Security. You can cross-check them at the UN Security Council, the UN General Assembly, and see who voted with or against the resolutions, and you'll get an idea.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister.
I just want to make this point. I was prepared, if I didn't get even the 20-something of them, to exercise the chairman's prerogative, to make a chairman's statement. But when I had all those countries listed, and they agreed, I said, well, okay, I'm not making a chairman's statement anymore. We just have a declaration of all those who agreed. So we had the overwhelming majority agreeing. You didn't have unanimity, but we couldn't arrive at what you might be able to say it's a consensus. If it was one who wasn't doing it, you know, you can say, well, okay, you can issue a statement departing from it. But you don't want to create any dissonance inside of the organization. So you agree on what you could agree, and what you can't agree on with everybody. 20-something of you agree, that's fine.
The pro tempore presidency of CELAC has passed to Honduras with the failure of the bloc to agree on a common position on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict as a reminder that despite the intentions of CELAC, each member country looks inward first at its own interest before that of its region or the hemisphere. Kenton Chance, Eyewitness News, Buckerment Bay, St. Vincent.